The streak is over. The Badgers back in the W column. Big Steven Crowl breaks out. We're going to talk about the best and the worst of this game coming up next on Locked On Badgers.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? A big Saturday for Wisconsin. We are talking your thoughts from this game. The Badgers break out of the loss column to get a win against Butler. Big-time portal pickup, big-time portal pickup at the tight end spot. We'll talk about that as well. And we got to start with this.
This is awesome. It's a good day for me.
Day for me.
Come on in here, buddy. Get up on that line.
Listen, Badgers win. It's exciting. It's a good win. Butler's a solid team. It's probably going to be a quad 2 win at the end of the year. Today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Rajiv, Badgers back in the win column. How are we feeling?
Isn't it nice when the Badgers actually win a game on the weekend and we can enjoy ourselves a little bit? That's pretty nice. Very needed. When you lose 3 straight road games in a row, this is 4 straight road games. Very tough stretch of the schedule. Very challenging. Good for us. Good for our development. Here's the bottom line, though. Ultimately, we didn't play a team that had really good bigs. Crowl and Winter were able to do what they wanted, clearly as evidenced by their numbers and the action we were running all game. But in order you got to win these games. You got to step up. You still got to do that. We didn't really shoot that well. So our big stepped up and scored a lot of points. Nolan Winter had a good game. Steven Crowl had a good game. Really, our schedule really goes kind of nowhere for the next couple weeks. We play 1 game in the next 3 weeks. So that's fine. Let's just take care of that one. It really gives us a real reset. At the end of the day, pretty good start to the season here. 3 losses, but against good teams, 2 of them in the Big Ten. That's the bad part, but much needed victory. Get some confidence, get some rest, and get ready for a very difficult Big Ten season coming up.
Yeah, everything you said there, such a needed victory. You could not lose all 4 in this stretch because then you have this big break. You're going to play Detroit Mercy, which you should be. But it feels like you lose all momentum if you drop every game in this stretch. You had to win this. And now you would have liked to have beat Michigan. But now I kind of like you have this break to kind of figure a few more things out. You're coming off a win. You're probably going to get 1 more before Christmas. And then you have another break to kind of get ready for that big. Listen, I think you and I are on the same boat on this. I think we are, at least. We haven't really talked about it. I think people drastically underestimate the depth in the Big Ten. This is a tough conference, man. You need this break.
Every time I hear people say the Big Ten's bad, I'm like, what are you talking about? Just look at the rosters across the board. There are good teams. I mean, Michigan State, Michigan, Illinois, Purdue, the list you talk about Penn State even. You can talk about Nebraska even. There's teams that are going to be challenging regardless of it's just like when you have an 18-team league. We talked about it with football too. There's going to be a couple teams at the top. There's going to be a couple teams at the bottom. There's going to be a large swath of teams to finish between 9 and 12 Big Ten wins. Every single win means so much when you're talking about an 18-team league. Yeah, the Big Ten is stacked. This is going to be very difficult. 0-2 is not the way to start. That is not good for us, but we've got time to get out of it.
Let's start this. We're going to do a segment here. It's going to be called The Good, the Mid, and the Ugly. We decided the good, the bad, and the ugly, especially coming off a win, we don't want 2 negatives in there. And it doesn't make sense. So we're going to do the good, the mid, and the ugly. We'll take turns on this. I'll start with the good. To me, it's Steven Crowl. I was super critical of him last game. He was in my ugly category. 0 rebounds. I do want to get into. I kind of wonder if it tilted the kilter of the offense a little bit, kind of forcing it a little bit through Crowl at times. But this is what you need from Crowl. Came out, played hard. It was super efficient. 7 out of 10. He hit a big 3 that kind of helped stem a run. I think he finished with 6 boards, 18 points. Yes, that's. You don't need stellar Steven Crowl, but you need good Crowl. You got good Crowl today, and he responded. You got to give him credit. If you're going to crush him when he doesn't play well, you got to give him credit for responding.
Absolutely. And, we were worried about whether he was going to respond well or whether he was going to respond and kind of go into a shell. Great job. You could see the playing with more effort, right? Even the rebounding, he was playing with effort. He clearly got called out, and he did. So good, kudos to him. My good's going to Nolan Winter. 20 points, 8 boards, 8 of 15, and even he was only 1 for 4 from 3. But I thought they were all good shots. Nothing he does is really poor. He's still growing, but look, he's taken a step from his freshman year to now. And if that step continues to grow, I think we're getting the Nolan Winter that we were hoping. And hopefully he's got a lot more room to grow, but he's becoming a very reliable big. He's in the right spots at the right time, really key rebound there at the end of the game. Like, I just feel like he's really rounding into form. And when last year we kind of thought we only really had Crowell as that really good big. Now Winter is stepping up. So definitely a good for him today.
Some really nice defensive sequences for Winter too, like walling up. He competes. He's physically sometimes gets overpowered, but he will compete. He'll wall up. He'll fight for it. So yeah, good job on Winter. I'm gonna kick it to you for the mid. What's the mid on your good, mid, and ugly?
Yeah, the mids are kind of like the star guards, right? I mean, Klesmit and Klesmit is not a different one. This different category. Blackwell and Tanjay are just mid today. I thought that they didn't really shoot the ball well. I thought Tanjay needed to be a bit more aggressive in the first half. There were just times where I'm like, just take it to the rim and do something, create something. Like I've been a little critical of how he's been doing that lately, but I think I still need him to do it. Like, he's still our best player. And luckily our bigs were playing well, but overall between Blackwell and Tanjay, they didn't really produce a lot. They scored 21 points between them, which is just not enough. They were 0 of 7 from 3-point between the two of them. So that's mid. I'm not going to say they're ugly because they're really a critical part of the team and a critical part of what's going on. But right now, this game, they were just kind of mid. They need to be better.
Yeah, I think it's a good one. I'm going to take that mid in a similar but slightly different direction. We need a game where all of our big dudes just play well together, and we really haven't had that. We've had games where Tanjay's exploded, but when he explodes, you don't have Crowell or you don't have Klesmit shooting well. You had that Klesmit stretch of 2 games where he shot pretty well, but in those games, Tanjay and Blackwell were kind of absent and Crowell wasn't there. Today, you had Crowell and Winter step up, and our guards didn't shoot well. I wonder if we're to the point in the season where, we're about a third of the way through the games, and you got to start looking at the offensive scheme a little bit in execution of how do we get all these players working together. It felt like in moments today, you could tell they wanted to get Steven Crowell going. But I wonder if at times it came at the expense of setting up easier looks for Tanjay or Blackwell. It felt like some of their looks were more end of shot clock, a little forced, and not as early in the clock, getting them isolations and clear outs, some of the things we saw earlier in the year. We got to get to a point where all of our guys are clicking. And I don't feel like we found that rhythm yet. And we're a third of the way through the season, which is a little troubling.
Yeah, we do need to fix that. Like the start of the second half, I thought your point it's exactly right there. They went on a 15-6 run to start the second half. And that exact same thing happened where they just weren't getting the shots for Tanjay and Blackwell. It was just about trying to get it low, trying to get Crowell going. But we needed to be more multiple from our looks offensively, especially early in the second half. We were up 14 at the halftime, and all of a sudden it was like a 4-point game. Like we don't want that. But yeah, I think at times it got a little bit too far away from what we did. But look, at the end we won. So if it helps Crowell's confidence, and if we can get those guys back to form in the next couple of games, then I think we'll be all right.
Let's go ugly. I'm going to kind of go Klesmit on this one. I just feel like shot selection at times. I've been a fan of most of Klesmit's play this year. Like, I don't mind him getting open looks and taking them. At times, I feel like he's forcing shots. He's getting in the paint and forcing shots. I would rather get more of those looks to Blackwell and Tanjay, to be honest, who have been better shooters, who are a little better playmakers. I still like Klesmit, but at times I feel like he plays a little like the number 1 option when I really think he's probably like the number 3 option on this team.
Yeah, I'm going to go agree with you and put Xavier Amos in there as well today. I thought that the thing about Amos that drives me crazy is like he catches the ball on the wing, and he doesn't even look for anything else. He's just taking the shot 100% of the time. And I'm like, I don't love that. Like, at least, I mean, I'd rather have Carter Gilmore shooting right now than other people. And I feel like Carter Gilmore looks for the shot, but he's also looking for the pass. He's trying to figure out what the best move is. Amos isn't doing that. He's just taking it and firing. He's just weak in so many different respects. He didn't score today, and we need him to score. He played a decent number. I don't know how many minutes he had, but it's just that was not good. But yeah, Klesmit, man, that ball where he got that ball stolen late in the end of the game, and he just kind of rallied. I mean, what are you doing? Get out there and get the ball. You're trying to shield the guy? He goes right around you, and then you give up a foul. Like, go get the ball. He tapped it out. Like, it's not a backcourt violation. Go get the ball. I mean, come on, man. Like that was really, I think you put it in the Discord, inexcusable, but it kind of summed up Klesmit's game for me. I thought he played very lazy today. I hate to say that, but I just feel like that's the way it looked. I just think that, like, he was kind of lazy in his defense. He was lazy and his shot selection wasn't great. Even when he did have a shot, he didn't really square his feet. Blackwell did that a couple times too. He's had now 2 air balls in 2 games. That's not Max Klesmit. I don't know what's going on there, but I think we need to shift some minutes around for him.
Yeah, he did hit that big shot before halftime, that was a big shot to kind of cap off that run before halftime. But you're right, man. That play on that back tip, even if it was a backcourt violation, sprint to get the ball so they don't get an easy shot. That was crazy. Like Bo Ryan, we said in the Discord, and this isn't a shot on Klesmit. Bo Ryan would have pulled him immediately for that play. That was an effort play. It was an effort play. And they're going to go back and watch that on film, and he's not going to like that look on film. Okay, we're going to take one quick second here. We got more basketball thoughts coming up, but we do have to talk about a huge portal tight end that the Badgers picked up. What does that do for the offense? That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers. First, a quick break for our friends of the show over at Gametime, the #1 ticketing marketplace, the best place to get tickets. And listen, this is a great time to do this. I'll put this out now. I'm going to put this in a Discord later. We are going to be doing a basketball meetup. Certainly, Rajiv, you're more than welcome. I haven't settled on a date yet, but I'm going to get a block of tickets on Gametime, so people can sit together in the Kohl Center, cheer together. We'll go into the stadium together. We will leave together. We'll pregame together. Like, it's going to be a really good community bonding thing. I'm going to get those tickets on Gametime, because where else would I get them? I don't know how else to buy tickets. I don't know how to scalp tickets. I'm a useless human being for the most part in so many aspects of my life. That's why Gametime is here to help me. So we're going to do a basketball meetup. We're going to get the tickets on Gametime because it's the fastest, easiest way to get those tickets. Snake the tickets without the stress on Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKDOWNCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKDOWNCollege for $20 off over on Gametime. All right, let's talk about the portal. And the portal giveth and the portal taketh. Rajiv, this is a big one for the Badgers. The Badgers pick up 6'7". Let's just repeat that: 6'7", 240-pound tight end Tanner Koziol, who I think we talked before the show. We believe that is the correct pronunciation.
I think, Koziol, who knows? Yeah. Man, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, coming from Ball State last year, was a junior last year, 94 receptions, 839 yards, 8 touchdowns, 8.9 per catch. I want to put this in perspective. 94 receptions. Rajiv, I don't know if you looked this up. Where do you think that was in the country for receptions? Where did that rank?
Ooh, that
not
has
even
to rank.
Tight ends. I mean, among all pass catchers.
It's got to be top 15 for sure. 4?
Fourth.
Wow.
The Badgers pick up the 4th leading receptions guy from the portal last year, tight end. Big pickup. Rajiv, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about the need for a tight end. We've talked, obviously, quarterback. I know a lot of people are getting nervous about that. We'll surely touch on that. And we talked about D-line, and then tight end was next up on my list. And we haven't had the production from Ashcraft, Nowakowski, McGowan didn't work out. But here you're getting a proven pass catcher, 1,500 yards in his career, plus 18 touchdowns or something like that too. He's very good in the red zone. The guy is quick, right? He's very speedy. He's also got good hands, good route running, adjusts to the ball well in the air. And just he's a receiving tight end. He's exactly the kind of guy that we need in any kind of offense, let alone just a Jeff Grimes offense or a Phil Longo offense. This is the kind of guy you need. All of a sudden now we've got Trech Kahuna just came back. We still got Vinny Anthony. Now you add Koziol into the mix, and now you've got some more weapons. It's an area of the field we literally had no production last year, and now we're going to have it. 6'7", that is so big. Think about the routes in the red zone, right? And that's what he did. He caught a lot of touchdowns. That's where 6'7" comes really nicely into play. And yeah, I mean, I'm super happy about this. We also got the guy from Louisville. You and I haven't talked about that. That's a big pickup for us as well. We needed a good pass rusher. So yeah, I mean, so far so good. We've kept the guys we really wanted to keep, and maybe short of a couple. And we've gotten guys that will and should have an instant impact on this team. Really like the fact that this guy is a straight up receiving tight end.
Yep. Feels like you got 2 starters in the portal up to this point. The interesting thing with Koziol, the tight end, is this is a quarterback best friend type of pickup.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is a guy in the middle of the field, 6'7". He's a good athlete. I don't think he's not a great athlete. Like, he's not going to sprint by a safety, but he's too big for safeties, and he can run. He's
a plus. He's a kind of above average athlete.
Yeah, I'll call him a good athlete, but a good athlete with great size and great hands and pretty good route running. One of the things I was looking at him, he's got a drop rate of 3.1%. That's pretty elite last year, especially on volume. Right? If you get thrown the amount of passes he gets thrown, and listen, he's a tight end. A lot of those passes are in traffic. They're in contact. They're in conflict. To only drop 3% of those is pretty remarkable. By context, last year, Vinny Anthony was around 2.5%, and we raved about his hands. So you're bringing in a sure-handed guy who can play in the slot. They played him in line, big target, red zone threat. And again, bringing in a quarterback, what's a quarterback's best friend? Like other than a left tackle, like a big monster left tackle, it's a tight end that's going to catch everything.
hopefully that can help bring in the quarterback too, right? I mean, we're going to need that as well. But yeah, I mean, you said it right. You're bringing in 2 starters. That's a really big deal. That's because. And now, to be fair, we talked about that last year too. We were higher. We also thought Jackson McGowan might have been a starter. So but this guy really, this guy has production. Like, he has 1,500 yards. He's played every single. He has 30, 35, or 34 catches in his first 2 years. That was his freshman and sophomore year. Then as a junior, he had 94 catches. Like, the production level is there. And yes, I know he played in Ball State. He played in the MAC. That's fine. But he's stepping up a level, which means he's not going to have 94 catches. That's okay. But even if he has 40, 45, like if he's that kind of a guy with that kind of production level, and I really love the red zone threat. I think that's, to me, that the thing that's so key here is being able to be a bit more multiple in the red zone, which is what we want to be. You have a guy like that. That's a huge pickup when you're inside the 10-yard line.
Yeah, here's a question here. A couple of people asked about what does it mean for a quarterback? Will it help get a quarterback? I kind of think they're selling these players on, here's our short list of quarterbacks, and we're going to get one of these guys. Because Tretch coming back, Koziol coming in, I think that points to the fact that they feel good about the quarterback spot, and Grimes. What are your thoughts there?
Sorry, say that again. I was leading in comments.
Oh, dude, I do that all the time. Yeah, I don't think you're landing these pass catchers, getting Tretch back essentially, which is re-recruiting your own guys, and then getting a Koziol who he's a pass catching tight end. If they don't feel good about the vision you're selling them at quarterback, these are our guys.
For sure. And we have kind of talked about whether or not they already have identified. They've obviously identified their short list, and we have no news about a quarterback coach yet. Maybe the quarterback coach is bringing the quarterback with him. There's a lot of options out there, but I think it's coming close. And yes, they absolutely are selling it, because if you got a guy from like Tretch that just leaves and comes back, I mean, first of all, the staff continues to be able to close. Like, how many times have we talked about their ability to close? As soon as Mason Rieger was in the portal, that was the guy that I was like, ooh, that's a guy that we could really use. A strong, big defensive end that can pass rush. Perfect. And then I hadn't heard about Koziol at all until today. So that's new for me. But yeah, this is exactly good production. And if it helps with the quarterback, that's great. Hopefully that's announced soon though, because that's clearly the one that's still making us very nervous.
Isaiah Place says Coach had more yards, catches, and touchdowns than our tight ends from 22 to 24 combined.
Wow, Isaiah. Good stat.
Yeah, it makes you remember, like, Jake Ferguson was here and was awesome for basically his entire career. But outside of that, the Badgers haven't had a weapon at tight end in a long, long time, Rajiv.
And how great was when Ferguson was here? Like, that's a huge weapon. How many times did we hear that he was Barry Alves' grandson? I mean, every other play, because he caught the ball every other play. So yeah. I mean, no, it's really big. And I'll tell you what about this guy. Clearly, he's ready for a step up too. When you have 94 catches in the MAC, you're ready to get out of the MAC. Like, I think that's really clear. He looks like a Big Ten player. I'm not saying he's going to be a Big Ten star, but he's definitely going to be a good above average Big Ten player based on the fact that he's produced that well at the step below. That is a massive. I mean, what is it, like 8-9 yards per catch? Like those are really, really good numbers. And you got a guy that has, I think he had 9 touchdowns last year, 8 or 9 touchdowns last year. Like, he's ready for the step up, and he's ready for the Big Ten.
Yeah, one more point on that too. If you catch 94 balls, like, you are in the crosshairs of a defensive coordinator every single game. They're probably bracketing him. They're probably using a linebacker underneath with a safety over the top. He's going to come to Madison, and it's a big step up in competition, but it's also going to be less of a spotlight directly on him. Mm-hmm. I think it's a tremendous get. I want to throw this question to you because this was specifically to you from KPB. Rajiv, can't join VR tomorrow. Discuss the tough football schedule. Can it attract a top quarterback because they'll have the opportunity to beat top teams, get national exposure? ?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question, Kevin. I think that, like, I personally think it does help us, like, to have that kind of exposure, because when you're playing, gosh, I mean, we obviously talked about that October stretch, just absolute brutality in that stretch of Michigan, Ohio State, Iowa, Oregon. Yeah, I think it does help with the national exposure. And these guys look, everyone's all about exposure now, right? Because whether they're going to go to the NFL, whether they're going to transfer somewhere else, like, everybody wants to play those big games. I think it does help. Certainly can affect it in the other way too, is be like, oh man, I don't want to play the schedule. Can we have IU schedule that they had last year? But yeah, I absolutely think that that it can be a good thing. And I think we are going to get a good quarterback. Again, kind of what you said, Ryan, based on who we kept and who we're getting in, it looks like they probably found their guy and they just haven't announced it yet. That's what I'm really hoping.
Yeah, on the schedule, you guys talked about in your show, I kind of talked about separately on mine. I don't think it will probably be a big selling point for a quarterback, to be honest. I think quarterbacks are about the scheme, the pieces around me, and how much money can you pay me. I quite frankly think Those are the deciding factors. But I do like it from a team standpoint. Like I do like I'm maybe on the minority here, and I wasn't fully sure what you guys talked about in your show, but I feel like if we're a real Big Ten team, we can't be that stressed about schedules. Every year there's SEC teams that are going to play Bama, Georgia, Auburn, Tennessee. And for 10 years, we feasted in the West. This just feels like penance. And by the way, it's going to equal out. In 2026, our schedule's much easier. So you just got to kind of take it as it goes in this world of college football.
That's the one thing I would say. Like, I don't the inbound schedules, I don't like it because I think that now with the playoff being 12 teams, like you can really get punished by having that. Every time you have an 18-team league, right? 18-team league and a 9-game conference schedule, they're going to be inbound schedules. It's just natural. But I think there needs to be a change made, maybe adding a 10th conference game and taking away a non-con or whatever, just to sort of equalize things out. Into overtime, yes, they will. And I'm also of that mindset. Like it's annoying to have that kind of a schedule next year, but it will equal out. You can look at every team's Big Ten schedule for the next 7 years. I think they're all out there already. So, I mean, it's going to equal out. And then we just look, IU being good all of a sudden. Like if we looked at the schedule a couple years ago, we were like, oh, IU, that's an easy one, but not anymore. And so things change all the time in this league. But there's a lot of opportunity. We're probably going to have 3 or 4 night games in a row like we did this past year, which hopefully we can win some of them. But yeah, maybe we should go to the Iowa game this year so we're not going to another automatic loss.
Yeah, we haven't decided what game we're going to go to yet. We'll use Game Time to get there. Let's take one quick second. We got a few more questions and comments. Rajiv, check out in the comments if anything else you want to talk about in your hit on our last segment. That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers. But first, a quick break. Friends of the show, great friends of the show over at FanDuel. I've talked about FanDuel a lot. FanDuel is the #1 source for all your sports betting needs. Futures, parlays, teasers, spreads. So easy. I can do it. And so simple, Rajiv can excel at it. That's where you go over to FanDuel, the official sportsbook of the NFL. I've already talked about this. If they got the NFL on board, what more do I need to even sell you? I should just sit here. I said it last show, Rajiv. I should just sit here with a blank stare. The NFL trusts them. What more can I say? Like, if they got them on board, you know their quality. Also, the official sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network, the official sportsbook of Ryan Herring's over at FanDuel. Futures, parlay, spreads, teasers, and it's a great time with all the sports action we got going on. Right now, you get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's over at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel.com, the official sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network. All right, let's bring some comments into this. Rajiv, what do you got in here that you starred if you found any?
I just want to talk about a player we haven't talked about yet. And Rick Tange says Kamari is a stud. We haven't talked about Kamari today. And man, we got to give it up for Kamari McGee again. Like his production wasn't amazing tonight. He shot 2 of 4, 50% again, 1 of 2 from 3, 6 points. His assist to turnover ratio this year is 19 assists and 6 turnovers, by the way, 3+1 turnover ratio. Every time I feel like things are getting a little tight, when Kamari touches the ball, something good just happens. His drive in the second half to get a good bucket was just amazing. I literally just kind of jumped out of my chair for that. He continues to be the engine that could off the bench. He's not getting enough talk because we're talking about Blackwell, we're talking about Tanjay, we're talking about the bigs today. Man, Kamari McGee has just been so consistent. Yeah. And if he continues to do this, he is going to be such a key player for us come March. Like such a key player. I have continued to be impressed with him. And I had to bring this up because we hadn't talked about him yet today.
No, I love it. And let me hit you 2 more things on Kamari, because these are things that have been rattling around in my brain that I don't think I've really talked about a ton. The first one is, this is the type of tremendous culture program guy you have to find in the NIL era. I don't know why I talk so slowly in that sentence, but like I need to emphasize it, right? It's so hard to build culture, to build camaraderie, to build the locker room. You need guys like this. He loves Wisconsin. He's from the state. This matters to him. He's okay coming off the bench. He embraces his role. This is the type of guy that's a force multiplier in the culture, in the locker room, because he makes everyone better. He helps people buy in. He talked about it in the offseason. I talked to him, and he said, one of the big things I did this offseason was help the portal guys feel welcome into Madison. Easy guy to root for. And then the other thing I kind of hit on right there is he's bought into his role. Like, this is not a player you got to worry about, oh, I need to start him, or he's going to start sulking, or if he doesn't get 10 shots, he's going to start wondering what his next transfer portal destination is. An incredibly easy guy to root for. I love that we're bringing him up. Absolutely.
He plays so hard constantly. I mean, that's exactly what you need. Another one I wanted to bring up was, I think you were bringing was up.
I was just going to really quickly, Jason Geldon, McGee is the Josh Gosser of this team.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly right. Like he's a little engine that could, man, and he's doing it every time. Gani says, Klez might have taken bad shots, but he only took 7 attempts and made it to the line 8 times. So I'm not mad about it. Tanjay took really ugly shots, and frankly, all guards played lazy, especially JB. To me, I think Klez looked like he played a bit more lazy than the other guys. I definitely would have wanted Tanjay to be more aggressive. That he has to be more aggressive. And then you kind of said it. Maybe they were trying to give a little more emphasis to Crowell tonight to get him back going. But he's still the star of the team. He's got to do it. But Klez, and it's not just this game, Gani. I think to me, it's kind of a progression that we've seen from Klesmith that's been just a little disappointing. I really thought that he was going to be a key player this year because when you had guys like Tanjay Blackwell out there, he really could just be the spot up shooter. But I just feel like when he's touching the ball, he's just not being as clean as he really needs to be. And I mean, I've said it before, 2 air balls in 2 games. That's just weird for a guy of that kind of caliber shooting, and something's just a little up with him.
Yeah, I do think it's a good point. Getting to the line, Klesman was able to do that. Tanjay was still able to do that today as well, which is important. It just hasn't felt clean to me. I think it's a good way to put it. And I feel like the ball, you're a little more under control with Tanjay and Blackwell, even though I'd like them both to be a little more aggressive. There is another comment in here as my heater kicks on and off. I don't know if that's messing with y'all's audio. Gani also said, let's not forget Gilmore. A year and a half ago, we did, if you remember, we did a all-time Badgers basketball draft. We'll probably do a football one this offseason because that was a lot of fun. I did this thing on there where I gave a guy my golden sneakers. You remember, like that's the golden sneakers guy, the culture guy. And that could be Kamari McGee on this team, but it could also be Gilmore. You talk about how many fans have you heard quote unquote checking out on college sports, right? This is hard to root for these guys anymore. It's hard to build that connection with players. They just don't give a crap. Like, go root for Carter Gilmore. It's such an easy guy to root for, and a player that's legitimately developed. It's not just a good story anymore. It's a legitimate role player in the Big Ten.
Can I just say, how many times last year were we upset about what we saw from Gilmore? If you're in the Discord, you're not in the Discord, or you're just listening to this show, like there was constant just the banter about how don't touch the ball. We don't like it. Now, every time he touches the ball, we're like, hey, good play, Gilmore. Good play, Gilly. I mean, it's just constantly. He's taking the right shots when he's open. He's not taking them sometimes. He's being aggressive, rebounding the ball. He's actually somewhat of a, like, when he comes on the court, I'm like, nice. Gilmore's out there. Something good's about to happen. Like, so much credit to Carter Gilmore, Kamari McGee, these guys clearly taking steps. Yeah, we're not talking about enough. And, listen, come March, we're going to be really happy when he makes big plays.
I want to throw this one in here because we're just kind of shift gears a little bit when we get to the comments. We go football, basketball, we yo-yo back and forth. A couple nice comments about my hair. Thank you for a couple of people in there noticing. Rajiv didn't notice, so I appreciate it.
I saw the comments, but
no, it's fine. It's fine, Rajiv. Like, the people in the comments got me. That's cool. Jason Gelden. Yak, I want to rephrase his comment a little bit. If Yak, he says, so is Yak staying. I'm going to say, if Yak stays with the Badgers, how many touches is he getting in the offense next year?
He definitely can get more with the way they run that wide zone that Grimes runs, and that one cut type of a guy, which literally that's Yakimelli's game. So I honestly think one of the reasons he still hasn't hit the portal is because Jeff Grimes is probably like, hey, buddy, I want to keep you here because I think we've got some touches for you next year based on the kind of running that I'm going to do. Yes, we have Dupree and Jones. They're going to be the bell cows, but you know what? It's okay to have 3. We're still going to need to have the third guy. And I think Yakimelli is going to get a lot of touches because of the system, that really good wide zone run scheme that Grimes runs. I absolutely expect him to get touches if he stays.
I think his fit's perfect. I think him and Dylan Jones are both great fits for this. I actually think Dupree's a little more wonky, but he's really talented. So I think it works for him. He's not as much of a one cut and go guy, I think, as Dylan and Yak actually are. But I think he's talented enough it works. And they'll probably get him in space more, which Grimes is also pretty good at. But yeah, I'm with you. I think if Yak stays, if they're able to convince him to stay, that means that they have talked to him. He's had a conversation with Grimes, and Grimes said, this is how we're going to use you, and we're going to utilize you in this offense, which I love. Because he's a big, fast, talented guy. It's very similar to Isaac Rendo, not as much top speed, but you got to use the athletes you have, Rajiv. It shouldn't be that difficult. 8.3
yards per carry. He was great last year. And of course, before Garendo left, you talked a lot about him. Oh, who's playing on Sundays these days for Ryan's team? Isaac Garendo. Like, he's an NFL running back, and we didn't use him. And we need to use Yakimelli because you don't have that kind of yards per carry for nothing. That's not just a fluke. That's because he's that talented.
Yep. You're getting some compliments on the beard there from Greg. Good friend of the show, Greg. Let's wrap it up here.
I've got a comment I want to bring up before please, Nick B just said the NCAA needs to figure out this transfer portal and NIL stuff, need to get it under control. This is like a recurring theme every time we have a show, we talk about it. I agree completely. I do think it's time now that the NCAA really needs to sit down in this offseason and figure this out, because you're re-recruiting your entire team every year. You're dumping all this money in NIL. There's no contracts in place. These are basically pro athletes. I have zero problem with them getting paid. I'm happy they're getting paid. That's great. But now there's got to be controls that come with it, right? You're gonna sign here for 2 years, and we're gonna give you this much NIL, or we'll put some rules back in the transfer portal about having to sit if you do this or whatever. Like, it just can't be open season, because it's not an enjoyable thing for the sport. You're losing players every year. It's just a big pool of a ton of players, kind of mediocrity. It needs to be solved. I like this kind of comment. I like putting this up there because I keep wanting to say this in hopes that someone is listening and they can really get this under control, because honestly, this is going to kill college sports if they do not put controls in place to fix this. It has to get done. Good comment, Nick. Thank you.
Yeah, I always appreciate Nick's comments on the show. I would push back. I don't think it would kill college sports. I actually think if you look at, I'll tell you this, because, obviously I'm part of a podcast, but I'm part of a podcast network that does a ton of shows across the network. Portal season gets more views than almost anything else. So there's an element of hot stove here where baseball figured it out, football's figured it out. If you can stay in the news sphere, if you can stay in the news cycle, people get excited. What did we talk about in the second segment of the show? How excited we were for a portal tight end. Now, I agree with you that I don't like it. I think the way it's structured is a problem. And I think we're in the midst of one era of college football changing or what college sports changing. And we're not quite to what it's going to change to. We're in that middle choppy part where it's still getting figured out. But I actually think a lot of fans kind of like the excitement of the portal season to some degree.
That's a very fair point. And I think that's true, because you're right. The hot stove thing does make a sense. It keeps you relevant throughout the season, which is totally fair. But I do think there will be fatigue in this system if they don't fix it. Like, eventually there's going to be like, oh my gosh, here we go again. Like, we're losing 10 new players, or we're getting 10 players. And it's like, you get these guys that are part of the program. You still got to build from the high school. I just think there needs to be some parameters. If you're going to pay them, that's fine. Give them contracts. It's okay. You're paying them. You're allowed to do that. It's a pro sport. Just call it what it is. The schools are making boatloads of money from massive TV contracts. Like, it's okay. They're professional sports. And in many other countries, the 18-year-olds, 17-year-olds, they go play professional sports. They get paid to play professional sports. That's okay. So just do it and fix it. Make it better.
Yeah, and I agree with that. Ultimately, you and I are on the same page there. I think the perfect solution to this is going to be NIL with some type of short-term contracts, where after a couple of years, you can get out of the contract. If it doesn't work out, you are going to have player movement, but there is going to be something for every single year. You're not re-recruiting the same guy. I think that's ultimately going to be where we get in. It'll involve contracts. And I think it's benefits the players. I think the fans enjoy it. The coaches probably don't love it, but it is what it is. Rajiv, any last thoughts on basketball? I want to finish up there, because as big as a portal pickup is, we have both been burned in the portal the last couple of years a little bit.
Yep.
And this is a big win. Going on the road, neutral site, you get a big win here. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, big win. Yes. Huge, definitely needed. However, I would just, it's still cautious in the sense that we didn't play a great team. We didn't play a team with good, athletic, physical bigs, which, as you saw in the Marquette game, we saw in the Michigan game, it really killed us in the Illinois game. So, I think it's cautious optimism for me here. I still need to see us play better against Big Ten teams. But yeah, as far as confidence, as far as building to the Big Ten season, really important. This 4-game stretch was brutal. We got one of them. That's okay. Hopefully we can start the Big Ten season right now. The Big Ten season opens up with 3 home games, or the Big Ten continues 3 home games out of 4. We need to get those. Really need to get started, because 0-2 is not where we want to be. But hopefully the confidence that Crowell and Winter gained tonight will help them against the teams with better bigs.
Yep, that's what I'm going to go with. I think the front court that you saw tonight, you're not going to get, I think they combined for 38 points. You're not going to get 38 points on efficiency, obviously, every game from those two. But if you can get that level of effort, that level of efficiency on lesser shots, listen, the Badgers are going to win a bunch of games, because you're not going to beat the really physical front courts. But if you can close the gap where you're not getting dominated by them, Rajiv, then I think this team can, on the wings and the guards, outshoot those teams. So long, you have to just be playable in those matchups. And what I saw tonight is a good step forward. Now, can Crowell be consistent? That's the question. He's got to be consistent with this level of energy.
And can we get back to some good 3-point shooting? Another game where we didn't shoot that well, 24% from 3. Like, that has to change, because in the Big Ten, you're not winning a lot of games if you shoot like this from 3. It's not happening. You can beat Butler, but you're not beating Big Ten teams. That's that's number that it kind of keeps ticking down a little bit. And I really expected this team to be a better 3-point shooter because you got 3-point shooters all across the board. So really hoping that number picks up.
Yeah, I think it will. I think water finds its level, and I think these shooters are pretty good. Jason Gelden says Badgers volleyball tomorrow. One of the best programs at Wisconsin, obviously. Mark Benson asks if Greppy will help in the physical games. I don't think he's quite ready yet, but I think in a year or two, he could give you a physical presence as a backup 5.
Yeah, I did want to mention the volleyball. I'm glad that comment brought up. It's tomorrow. We play Nebraska. They're the number 1 seed. We're the number 2 seed. And I believe the game is, it is tomorrow. Yes, it is tomorrow at 2:00 Central. So that's going to be great. Can't wait for that. Let's go Badgers.
Heck yeah. On Wisconsin, thank you all so much for tuning in. When you're done, go check out Locked On Big Ten, Locked On College. Football, give you all the latest stories on all those networks there. Thank you so much for tuning in. Rajiv, thank you for joining me and giving me your time. On Wisconsin, Badgers get a W. These are always much more enjoyable.